David, a teenager with furrowed brows and a heart full of worries, trudged up the mountain path. His backpack felt heavy, and not just from the textbooks inside. He was on his way to visit his grandfather, a man he barely knew, but who had offered him a quiet place to escape the turmoil of teenage life. As he rounded a bend, David saw an old monk, his shaved head gleaming in the afternoon sun. The monk smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners, and David felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. "Lost, young man?" the monk asked gently. David shook his head. "No, just looking for some peace." David spent the next few days helping his grandfather in the garden and talking to the monk, whom he learned was named Bar. He told Bar about his anxieties, the pressure to fit in at school, the constant arguments with his parents, the feeling that he was always failing. Bar listened patiently, his gaze steady and kind. He never offered unsolicited advice, but his presence seemed to soothe David's frayed nerves. One afternoon, as they sat sipping tea in the warm sunshine, Bar asked, "What is it that troubles you the most, young David?" David sighed. "Everything feels so difficult, Bar, like I'm carrying a huge weight on my shoulders." Bar smiled and led David to a nearby stream. "Watch the water, David," he said. David observed the water tumbling over rocks, swirling and churning. "The water flows effortlessly," Bar continued, adapting to every obstacle in its path. "It does not fight the rocks but flows around them. It does not dwell on the past or worry about the future. It simply exists in this moment." David watched, mesmerized, as a fallen leaf was swept along by the current. He began to understand. His worries, like the rocks in the stream, were a natural part of life. It was his resistance to them, his constant struggle, that created his suffering. The next day, a sudden thunderstorm rolled in, unleashing its fury upon the mountain. Wind howled through the trees and rain lashed against the windows. David felt a familiar panic rising within him, but then he remembered Bar's words about the flowing river. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and tried to find the stillness within the storm. He focused on the rhythm of his breath, the beating of his heart. To his surprise, it worked. The fear subsided, replaced by a sense of calm he had never known before. He realized that peace wasn't the absence of storms, but the stillness within them. One morning, David was helping his grandfather in the garden. He was carefully weeding around a row of lettuce when he accidentally pulled up a lettuce seedling. He felt a surge of frustration. "I'm always messing things up," he muttered under his breath. Bar, who had been watching him, placed a hand on his shoulder. "David," he said gently, "even the most skilled gardener makes mistakes. It is through our mistakes that we learn and grow." He pointed to a nearby tree, its trunk scarred and gnarled. "Even this tree, with all its imperfections, is beautiful and strong. It is our imperfections that make us unique and interesting." Section 6. The gift of the present moment. As the days turned into weeks, David found himself spending more and more time in quiet contemplation. He would sit by the stream, listening to the water flow, or wander through the forest, observing the intricate details of nature. He learned to appreciate the simple things, the warmth of the sun on his skin, the taste of fresh berries, the sound of birdsong. He discovered that true happiness wasn't something to be chased after, but something to be found in the present moment. Section 7. Gratitude, the seed of happiness. One evening, as they were having dinner, David's grandfather told stories of his life, of hardship and loss, but also of resilience and joy. He spoke of the importance of gratitude, of finding things to appreciate, even in the midst of suffering. David realized that gratitude wasn't about denying the difficult things in life, but about shifting one's focus to the good. He began to keep a gratitude journal, writing down 3 things he was grateful for each day. He found that the more he focused on gratitude, the happier he felt. Section 8. Kindness, a ripple effect. David started to see how his own inner peace could create ripples of kindness that extended outwards. He began to treat his parents and classmates with more patience and understanding. He found that when he approached others with an open heart, they often responded in kind. He realized that kindness wasn't just about being nice, it was about recognizing the interconnectedness of all beings. Section 9. A Transformed Spirit. When it was time for David to return home, he felt a mix of sadness and excitement. He was sad to leave the peace of the mountain, but he was also excited to share what he had learned with his friends and family. He knew that life wouldn't always be easy, but he now had the tools to navigate its challenges with grace and resilience. He had found inner peace, and he carried it with him like a warm light within.